I'm Jeannie Russell. As a child actress, I am best known for playing Margaret on Dennis the Menace. But what most people don't know was that I also was in The Birds for Alfred Hitchcock, which was one of the most amazing experiences of my career and so much fun. The way that went down, I was working as Margaret. I was a regular on a television show, and I got a one-on-one interview with Alfred Hitchcock in his office. Now, I'm always asked, oh, were you scared? Were you intimidated? And the answer is, no, I was a seasoned professional. I went in there to do what I was trained to do, which was to sell myself. I walked in with my book of pictures and put it on the desk and said, hello, Mr. Hitchcock. And he just stared at me. He did not say one word to me the entire interview. And, so I just continued on. I looked around the room and I saw a storyboard of his vision of the birds with kids with their eyes gouged out, running, like that. And I said, oh, I love horror. I said, I've never, ever done a horror film. And, that's my favorite thing to watch in the whole world. And he did a cursory flip through my picture book, and then at some point, I guess he signaled his secretary he was done with me. So I left, and I went, oh, well, that was different. And when I got home, got a call saying, Jeannie got the job. You're going to Bodega Bay next week to film this thing, and you'll get a script when you're up there. Okay, fine. My brother had already worked for Alfred Hitchcock. He did one of his television episodes. So there was no big mystery or big, dread about the man. It was just business as usual. Once we got up there, we checked into the El Rancho Motel, which was a lot of fun. It's in Santa Rosa, which meant we had to bus in with the crew to shoot. And I think that's when my love of crew actually got really, embedded in me. When we got to the hotel, my script was in my room, and what it was about 10 or 12 pages of that sequence where Tippi Hedren arrives at the school, lights a cigarette, and you can hear the kids singing that song in the background that only a child could remember those crazy words, okay? And that is all on the page. It's blow by blow when she takes a drag of her cigarette, which shoulder she looks over. Now here comes another bird landing on the jungle gym. And while the kids are singing in the background, what we did is we got in the middle of the schoolhouse, right around where the desks are, and they dropped the boom, and we stood around and sang that song. And I remember when my mother first saw that script and realized what he had done, he had hired a handful of Hollywood children, experienced kids, to lead the gang in that scene. And there was no dialogue. And some of the Hollywood mothers were quite upset, and they called the agents and said, this is extra work. And they said, well, look, it's for Alfred Hitchcock, you're there, just go ahead and do it. So we did it, okay? And that song is the only music in the film.
Shh. All right, children, now quiet. Quiet.
Suzanne Pleshette was like the salt of the earth, just fabulous, approachable, a sense of humor to die for. And she was dating Troy Donahue at the time, and he came to visit. Oh, he was like the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen in my life, just vibrantly tan and vibrant blue eyes.
I want you to go as quietly as possible. Do not make a sound until I tell you to run. Then run as quickly as you can. Now, does everybody understand? Yes, all right, John, you lead the way.
When we left the schoolhouse and were running, we didn't see any birds. There were no birds. And the AD was on the camera truck. Alfred Hitchcock was riding the camera as well. Huge truck, okay? and the AD is like calling out the action. And, now they're getting closer. Now they're on, now they're on you, It was a gravelly hill and kids were getting scratched up, and a lot of times Suzanne Plachette was the first one to aid a fallen child. And the welfare worker teacher actually stopped production and said, "You've got to go and get pink tights for these girls. I don't want their exposed legs to get scratched up." It took us several days to film that sequence. First, we waited around because he wanted it to get foggy. That's why I chose Bodega Bay. And it was bright and sunny, and the locals were going, "Oh, you brought your Los Angeles sun with you," but that's not what he wanted. So finally we went with what we had and ran down that hill. Then for the reverses, it was actually in a different part of the town. Okay, it wasn't adjacent to the schoolhouse, but it's running down the hill to the Tides restaurant, where some more action takes place. They actually had me rigged with a mechanical bird, okay? And when I started down that hill, I flipped a switch. It was on my shoulders. And the first time down the hill, the bird actually drew blood. I was going, "Ow, that hurts." And so the prop man came over and re-rigged the bird and put a little cotton on the beak, and we went ahead with that. I had no contact really with Tippy. She was running on the other side of things. But what I do remember was that during the melee, when the kids were rolling down the hill, crashing, whatever, Suzanne was there. But there were a couple of crew members out of camera range that were pacing Tippy. And if she was in trouble or if he'd call cut, they'd move in, and grab her elbows and make sure that she came to a safe stop and got her in her chair.
In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Oh! Now, why would he do that?
Alfred Hitchcock did not say one word to any of us. Not a word. After having had a one-on-one with him, you'd go, "Good morning, Mr. Hitchcock." And he'd just look straight ahead. And after it got really awkward, either his assistant or chauffeur would go, "Hello," they would answer. I never had spent any time with the local kids. I said, I think what it was is they had the Hollywood kids in a holding area because we had to have school and stuff like that, and they had to keep dibs on us. So we didn't spend time with the local kids. We were in different holding areas. The El Rancho Motel was our playground. We'd all have dinner in the dining room at night. I remember Rod Taylor would eat there. Tippy didn't. We would all gather for dinner and, just have steak dinner and whatever and laugh and just dance. There was music somehow. I don't recall if it was live or if it was jukebox. And the locals would come and watch us little Hollywood kids, when we weren't working. We danced and danced and danced and just had a blast. It was really a great time. When it came time back in Hollywood when they called us in to do the treadmill scenes, which is where the close-ups were going to be, Dennis the Menace wanted me. So I had to pass on doing that, go work on Dennis the Menace. So one day I'm, like this for Hitchcock. The next day I'm in my Margaret drag, playing Margaret. And they got another young actress. I never met her. I don't know who she was. And put her in my wardrobe, the world's ugliest wardrobe. I've got a drab brown dress on. I still have the PA's handwritten note that I was to be on the treadmill in group 1. Okay, girl number 3 or 4, something like that. And it describes, the girl going like this with a bird landing on her, and she's in my sweater. She got my close-up. It's just, it's the kind of thing in Hollywood that is just galling. I was supposed to have a lot more camera time in that than I wound up getting. But I had the fun. The Bodega Bay location was absolutely a lot of fun. So I have to look back in my career and say, you know, wow, iconic television, iconic film. You know, I was happening. It was great. It was an experience. No idea while we were doing it that that's the reaction it would get. Suzanne Plachette. She talked to my mother. My mother was a very attractive woman. She looked like she could have been an actress too. And, you know, my mother would engage her and they'd talk and talk and talk. And then my brother's last picture was The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin with Roddy McDowell and Suzanne. And when Suzanne saw my mother, she said, "Oh, great." She goes, "You got another kid at home? We'll make another movie."
All right, children, now please put your songbooks away, then stand up alongside your desks. We'll go out to recess as soon as everybody gets ready.